Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin with AEW news. Mark Briscoe will be making his AEW debut tonight on Dynamite from the Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, according to a tweet announcement yesterday from AEW. Briscoe will be taking on fellow longtime Ring of Honor veteran Jay Lethal in a match requested by both men in honor of the birthday of Mark's brother and tag team partner Jay Briscoe, who died in an auto accident last week. The Briscoe brothers had been banned from AEW television via an edict from TBS and TNT parent company Warner Brothers Discovery, which cited the homophobic comments made years ago by Jay Briscoe. Despite multiple apologies over the years, the Briscoes continue to be banned, and WBD would not even allow a tribute to Jay to be presented on Dynamite last week on the day after his death. However, Dave Meltzer also confirmed yesterday that WBD has officially changed their policy and will now allow Mark Briscoe to appear on AEW TV going forward. The decision to ban the Briscoes had been met with a great deal of public backlash, particularly in the wake of the prohibition of a Jay Briscoe tribute show. Jay Briscoe, real name Jamin Pugh, would have been 39 years old today. In WWE news, the 30th anniversary of Monday Night Raw last Monday night generated the largest domestic live audience gate in the history of the program, according to a statement yesterday from WWE on Twitter. WWE announced a sellout crowd of 16,957 for the taping at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, the largest crowd for Raw or SmackDown since before the COVID-19 pandemic, and a number which exceeded the live attendance of the Extreme Rules, Survivor Series, and Hell in a Cell premium live events of 2022. The actual gate figure in dollars was not made known. In related ratings news, the 30th anniversary episode attracted the largest TV audience for Monday Night Raw in nearly 3 years, with an average of 2.344 million viewers tuning into the USA Network, according to Showbuzz Daily. That figure is up nearly 60% from last week's 1.489 million viewers and represents the largest overall audience for Raw since February 17, 2020. In the hourly breakdown, the first hour of Raw drew 2.635 million viewers, which fell to 2.373 million for hour 2, and fell further to 2.024 million for the final hour, a total loss of 611,000 viewers over the course of the show. The rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic was .70, the highest key demo rating for Raw since April 6, 2020, according to WrestleNomics. That rating translates to 908,000 viewers and was up nearly 66% from last week's .42 key demo rating. The episode came in first place on cable TV for the night in the key demo, up from 7th place last week. In Wrestlemania news, shortly after a report earlier this week from Fightful Select indicating that a WrestleMania match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns had been pitched, a contradictory report yesterday on Wrestling Observer Radio indicated instead that the big money match offered to Austin for WrestleMania was not against Reigns, but rather against Brock Lesnar. Neither match is reported to be happening as of now, with the Observer report clarifying that the Austin-Lesnar match is not currently in the plans, but had been discussed for months and got as far as Austin being offered the match. Austin and Lesnar have never wrestled each other, but have a long history dating back to a much-discussed incident in 2002 in which Austin walked out of WWE in protest to being asked to lose to then-rookie Lesnar on an episode of Monday Night Raw. The two also teased a potential future match between them during Lesnar's 2015 appearance on Austin's podcast. NXT was broadcast live on USA Network last night. In the main event, Katana Chance and Caden Carter successfully defended the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship, defeating Sol Ruca and Alba Fire. In a continuation of the brawl between NXT champion Braun Breaker and Grayson Waller that took place as a pre-taped angle at the WWE Performance Center earlier this week, Waller once again goaded Breaker into a confrontation in the ring, eventually putting Breaker through a ringside barricade. Toxic Attractions' Gigi Dolan and Jayce Jane also laid out NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez during another in-ring promo segment. In her first televised match in 5 months, the returning Tiffany Stratton pinned Indy Hartwell.
Oh, come on! And you're smiling, Booker! What are you smiling at?
That steak and,
cutting corners?
That steak and lobster, baby. That champagne wishes and caviar dream.
Boom! What a moonsault! And what a win for Tiffany.
In other results, J.D. McDonough pinned Andre Chase, the Creed brothers defeated Drew Gulak and Hank Walker, Elektra Lopez beat Wendy Chu, and Kiana James and Fallon Henley topped Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley. In news from outside the ring, former Universal Wrestling Federation, World Class Wrestling Association, and Global Wrestling Federation wrestler Steve Cox is being charged with threatening a violent act and 2 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon, according to Lori Fulbright of Tulsa, Oklahoma's News on 6. The charges stem from a series of incidents in the spring and fall of last year in which Cox was reported for erratic and threatening behavior. In May, he was arrested for leering at children in a park and then pulling a knife on a woman who tried to identify him. In April and October, he was accused by 2 individuals who did not know him of threatening them with a knife and threatening to hit them with his car. This is in addition to other alleged suspicious behavior observed by locals in his Tulsa neighborhood, including stalking school children and following one teenage girl home. When police brought Cox in, he was picked out of a lineup by the victims of the April and October incidents. Cox wrestled for Bill Watts' UWF in 1987, both before and after the buyout by Jim Crockett Promotions, then appeared for World Class in 1988, and later became a regular on GWF TV in 1991. And finally, in some unfortunate news, 1960s luchador Benito Galan, who wrestled in Mexico as Benny Gallant, passed away on Sunday at the age of 93, as was first reported Monday on Facebook by Boxy Lucha magazine. Hailing from Andalusia, Spain, Gallant began wrestling in 1959 for Spanish promotion Empresa Grand Price, then came to Mexico, debuting there on July 12, 1962, and spending the remainder of his career there, primarily wrestling for EMLL. Gallant took the NWA World Middleweight Championship from El Rayo de Jalisco in 1964 and spent nearly 5 months as champion before dropping it back to Jalisco. He began his Lucha Libre run under a mask, but lost his mask to Espectro 1 in 1965. He was also famous for beating Cavernario Galindo in a hair versus hair match in Arena Mexico in 1962, but subsequently lost 2 high-profile hair versus hair matches, one to El Santo in 1963 and the other to Mil Mascaras in 1966. Gallant also appeared in 3 of El Santo's films, Santo in the Wax Museum in 1963, and Santo vs. the Martian Invasion, and Santo vs. the Villains of the Ring, both in 1966. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.